So let's just start about, we'll just start talking about our business. So our business is buying and selling houses. Most agents will probably have a buyer first before they have a listing. Just how it is. It's easier to work with buyers and find them a place, write an offer. First-time home buyer is the best person to work with, just because they're going to appreciate you, everything you do. They're going to be so happy you're getting them into their first property. It's a great feeling, someone to buy their first property. So we're going to get into the MLS. Okay, so that's not today's class, but you're going to get on the MLS. You're going to help people find property. A real buyer is someone who is looking every day. They're on Zillow. They're looking at emails from you, and they're looking themselves. Like they know the market, and they're waiting for the property to become a lender. That's super important. For time, I will always give a day of someone to show them property. But after that one day, like I need to make sure that they are capable of buying. If you're not comfortable asking the money questions, like let's say you get a referral from your friend's parents, right? You might not be comfortable asking them about their financial situation, which is totally fine. Of course, don't worry about that. But they need to talk to a lender, right? And you can have the conversation with the lender. What should I be looking for them? Like what price range should I be looking for them? So have the lender do the dirty work for you. You don't have to have that conversation. Yeah.
What's that conversation sound like? When you literally approach these people, like let's say.
So you're the buyer coming in and hey, how you doing? Thanks for coming to my open house. Do you live in the area? I'm asking you, do you live in the area?
Yes, absolutely.
You live in the area. So do you currently rent or own?
Right.
Great. Are you in a lease or month to month?
Month
to month. So you're ready to go.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep in a lease. You're ready to buy. Awesome. Have you talked to a lender yet?
I have not.
So I have an amazing lender. I'm going to recommend them to you, and I'll send them to you. I'll text you, right? Share contact. And I'll say, please get in contact with them. And the reason that you want to do that right now is so that when an awesome house comes on the market, you're ready to buy it.
Gotcha.
Because when an awesome property comes on the market, there's going to be people that are already ready with pre-approval letters that are going to submit offers right away. And if you don't have that ready, you might lose out on that property to someone who's already prepared. And it could take the lender a few days to do that.
And what's your advice for I assume it behooves you to develop a relationship with a specific lender. I know there's one that I think it's Mary Shalhoub.
May Shalhoub.
Sorry.
Yeah, May Shalhoub.
And is that
so she's with Movement Mortgage. Movement Mortgage is doing a lot of the loans in today's market. They have so you have direct lenders and then you have mortgage brokers. So Movement Mortgage is a mortgage broker, which means they have many sources of money that they can go to. Like if you're going to direct lender like Wells Fargo, Chase, Citibank, they have money to lend, but they have a criteria that you have to meet all of their criteria. When you go to a mortgage broker, they're going to talk to you and see what your situation is. And then based on your situation, they know where the money is that they can go to that you'll fit the criteria for that lender.
So it sounds like it would be easier to just approach a mortgage broker?
Yeah, I mean, a mortgage broker has different sources of money that for you, that you're gonna fit their criteria. So they're trying to fit, right?
I understand.
They're trying to match you.
Yeah,
It's the best lender.
So I guess to get approved and stuff.
So we need that. So
That's
we need that. When we submit your offer, it should come with proof of funds. And that's gonna be a statement, a bank statement or an account statement showing the money that you have to close, your down payment, where it's coming from. Yeah.
Oh, I just want to remind you that May is having a class at 1 to 2.
Oh,
I
thank you.
think
It's canceled.
Ah,
It got canceled.
Yeah.
you got, you know,
Unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so when we submit an offer, we need to have a complete offer. We need to have proof of funds and a pre-approval letter. Right? Now, if I'm an agent and I'm a listing agent and I put a property on the market and it's a great property at a great price, and let's say I get 20 offers, I'm gonna get offers that have proof of funds with pre-approval letters. I'm gonna get offers that don't have that. There's two different piles. I have the pile without and the pile with. My focus is on the pile with, right? Now, these people here that didn't supply it, I might have telephone conversations with them or text conversations, maybe. But keep in mind, I got 20 agents trying to contact me, telling me they're the buyer, they're the buyer. Everyone wants the deal. So my focus is going to the person that wrote a great offer, they're really showing me that they're ready to go. So if you're ready to buy right now, we need to do everything we can to put you up here and not down here, right? We want to make you top of the pile. Okay, so we are representing buyers now. So buyers looking, we're sending them listings from the MLS. We take them to properties. After every showing, you're gonna say, do you like this? Do you want to write an offer? So hopefully you're showing them something that they like. No one's gonna match 100% of what they're looking for. There's no such thing as 100%, but they can get 90-something%. If there is a pushback on interest rates right now, my response to that is don't lose out on the property that you like because of interest rates. Like, it's not common you're gonna find a property that you love, right? If you love this property, go for it, right? Write an offer, get it. If interest rates go down, then you can refinance later. If interest rates continue to go up, you'll be happy that you got in now. But don't lose out on this property. If you're waiting for interest rates to go down, we don't know when that'll happen, if it'll happen. It will eventually, but you're losing out on this property. So just take interest rates discussion off the table. It's not a discussion. Okay, now offer time. We want to write an offer. So we need to do comps. So we need to go into the MLS. My conversation with a buyer is I'm going to go back to my computer. I'll send you comps and we'll discuss how much to write the offer for, right? I'm not writing an offer in front of somebody. That's like crazy. That's not happening. I'm not inviting them to my office to where I'm writing the offer with them in the office. There's no pressure on me. You're going to say, I'm going to go back to my computer. I'll send you comps and we'll discuss how to write the offer, what we want to write for. In that meantime, you're calling the lender, right? Because you're going to need a pre-approval from the lender. We need to find out from the lender how long they need to close. Can they do a 30-day escrow? Can they do 45 days, 60 days? It's a very important question. Some lenders can close in 21 days. I can tell you right now, where interest rates were in the mid-7s right now, let's just say interest rates dip 0.5% for whatever reason. Something happens, there's money available, all of a sudden interest rates go to like 6 7/8 or 7. The lenders are going to get flooded with refis from people that got in at 7.5 or 7 3/4 or 8. So the lenders are all of a sudden going to get really busy and they're not going to be able to close in 30 days. So that's why I'm saying you have to call the lender. Every time is different. Call the lender and say, how long right now will it take you to close a loan? Can you do a 30-day escrow? Okay, that's question one, is how long? The other question for the lender is, what is the rate? Because we need to put a rate in our offer. 7 1/4, 7.5, 7 3/4. We need to know the rate and we need to know the points. Points. So what is a point? A point is 1% of the loan amount. Meaning, if you're borrowing 500,000 at 1 point, it's costing the borrower $5,000. 1% of 500,000. So for a $500,000 loan, if there's a 1 point, they're paying $5,000 for the loan.
Buy down the rate.
You can buy down the rate separately, but you can. So right now, let's say interest rates are 7.5 at 0 points. And you have the borrower may have the option to pay $5,000 to get the rate down to 7.25%, maybe. 10,000. So there's always an option that, and we'll talk about, thank you for bringing that up, because we'll talk about it a little later when we're asking for seller credit. Okay, so we wrote the offer. We found out from the lender, how long does it take to close an escrow? What's the rate? How much are the points? The other two questions for the lender are, how long will it take for the appraisal? We need to know that. And how long for loan approval? Okay, so there's three contingencies when you write an offer. A contingency is the ability for a buyer to break the contract and not lose their deposit. Okay, so when a buyer writes an offer, they're usually going to put 3% into escrow. So on $1 million purchase, 3% is $30,000. Right? They're going to put 30,000 into escrow to start this deal. So they're put the deposit in. That deposit can get returned to the buyer if they back out based upon their investigations, the appraisal doesn't come in, or they can't get a loan, right? So just having the loan approval paper is not enough. It has to go through, the whole process has to happen. They have to fill out the application, it goes to the underwriter, the property has to have an appraisal. The appraisal has to come in at value, at whatever the contract price is. Everything goes to the underwriter looks at everything, and the underwriter is the one that finally signs off and says, yes, we're committing to your loan. That's full loan approval. And the lender should put something in writing saying you're good to go. You can remove the loan contingency. So again, a contingency is the ability for the buyer to back out without losing their deposit. Okay. Let's talk about that real quick because it has to be talked about. Buyers are always going to ask you, what's my risk? Their risk is their deposit, but only after they remove all of their contingencies. So if they put their deposit in escrow, they go into the deal, they inspect the property, their deposit is not at risk. They have the ability for all their investigations. The appraiser is going to come, he's going to appraise the property. Meanwhile, they're sending all this stuff to the lender. The lender keeps asking for more paperwork and more paperwork, letters from the accountant, all this kind of stuff. And then time is ticking. By default, all days are 17 days. 17-day for investigation, 17-day for appraisal, 17-day for loan. Now, we may negotiate and change those terms to shorten them or lengthen them if we need to. But that's the default in the contract. If you don't change anything, it's 17 days for each of them. 17 days for loan approval, 17 days for appraisal, and 17 days for buyer investigations. Investigations have everything. Investigations cover everything, not just inspections. Investigations cover reviewing reports, plus inspections, reviewing the title, reviewing the CC&Rs, the HOA documents, anything. The buyer needs to go to the city to find out what they can build there, like all those investigations. Okay. Now let's talk about inspections. So if you are buying a house, so first of all, no matter what, you're buying a house or a condo, the most important inspection is your general inspection. You're going to hire a general inspector. The general inspector is the do-it-all inspector, maybe not a specialist inspector, but he's the general, right? He's going through the house, he's opening the cabinets, looking at the plumbing, making sure there's no leaks, everything's connected. He's opening the electrical panel, checking the wiring. He's going into the attic. He's looking for the insulation. He's looking at the air conditioning ducting. He's crawling underneath the house. He's seeing if there's moisture, anything's leaking. A good inspector is doing a thorough inspection through the house, on the house, under the house, in the garage, and noting anything that needs attention. So at the end of the general, what's the one?
He's so funny. This is a mirror. That's casually. I
So,
don't think he knows his videos.
yeah,
Who's paying for the inspector?
good question. The buyer should pay for all inspections. If we pay for the inspection, it's sort of well, first of all, we could lose the money totally because
It doesn't.
they could back out and we're out the money. But it might be a conflict of interest if we pay for the inspection. Like you might want to pay for that inspection as a courtesy to your buyer. But if you do, it could come back to bite you later down the road, saying it was your inspector, you paid for him, and he missed that. Right? So it's could be liability for you, even though your intention was good, it could be a big liability.
I
Yeah.
have a question. So if it's a first time buyer,
Okay.
they're asking for your recommendations for inspections. Now, I know we could recommend, give them choices
Yeah,
and
yeah,
let them
exactly.
decide, but as a new agent, where do you get how do you know, who are these inspectors? Like, how do you get confidence?
So great question. Yelp is a great resource.
Okay,
Yelp is a fantastic resource. So, I have an inspector that I like to use. He's very thorough and, he hasn't missed anything yet. A thorough inspector could also be
Pricey.
a deal breaker, pricey, but also, your buyer is basically getting a book on their property, everything that's wrong with it. It doesn't say everything good about it. So, you just have to remind your buyer, look, I'm bringing a really thorough inspector in here. He's gonna say every single thing wrong with the property. Don't get scared. Like every property has issues, even brand new construction has issues. All those issues should be hopefully fixable. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna inspect everything and we're gonna put a price to fix everything. And we're gonna try to get that from the seller. Hopefully they'll agree. They don't have to, but hopefully they will. And let's just approach it knowing that they're gonna get a list of everything wrong with the property, right? I would rather have a thorough inspector who's accurate and thorough than an inspector who doesn't do a good job, meaning he missed a ton of stuff and everything in the inspection just says, recommend further inspection, right?
how much do they cost on average?
I would say anywhere from $350 to $1,200.
Okay.
You get what you pay for. Yeah.
How much is your guy?
Right, so my guy, I just did with him a 3,600 foot house. He charged, I think, $1,250.
Okay, gotcha.
He's expensive, but he's
very thorough.
very thorough.
So does that depend on the square footage? or-
It's usually by square footage, yes. And it's also, square footage, and then is there also a guest house garage?
What was I gonna ask? If you meet your new client or you just acquire a client as buyer's agent and you ask if they're pre-approved and they already are,
Great.
what would your follow-up question be? Because I imagine.
Can you send me the pre-approval?
Okay. Because I imagine there's like a certain window of time that's good for.
Well, okay, so normally a pre-approval is going to have an amount on it. So now comes the question, is it enough for the purchase, whatever you find? Is it gonna be enough? Is that their max that they're pre-approved for? So I might want to have a conversation with that lender as I'm writing my offer to give me a lower or higher pre-approval, right? Depending on what my offer is. I usually want to submit a pre-approval at the amount that I'm buying at, usually. I've received offers with higher pre-approvals, right? And I like that. I know that my buyer can well afford the property that they're making an offer on. In my seller's mind, they think they can get more, right? I know, no matter how much money you have, you're only willing to spend so much on something, right? But a seller doesn't look at it like that. They think that if there's money there, they can go. When someone sends an email, I have a buyer that can go up to 9 million, you're thinking 9 million. You're not thinking 8 million, right? So it's just.
I hedge my expectations.
There's a lot of psychology going on here. Maybe I just think too much. I get in my own head too much, but I try to look at it from everyone's point of view. and I want the deal to go through. So as an agent, I want the deal to get closed. That's my goal, to close the deal. As a buyer's agent, I'm not there to get my buyer the best deal. A lot of agents think they want to get their buyer a deal. Your job is to get them the deal, not the best deal. You want to get them the deal. So if you don't get your buyer the deal, there's nothing. Right? There's many offers coming in on a property. This is not about getting them the best price. This is about winning and being the winning bidder. Right? After you get accepted, then you investigate the property and we can go from there. But if you don't get that first acceptance, there's nothing. So our job is to get the deal, stay in the deal, close the deal. Okay, so general inspector is the first person to go through. Now, that's my most important inspection, is my general. So while I am writing my offer, I am contacting my general and saying, what's your schedule look like right now? Are you totally booked up? Because now I'm writing in my offer how long I want for investigations, loan, and appraisal contingencies. So if I can shorten it from 17 days to 15 days to 12 days to 10 days, the better, the shorter I can make that time period, the more aggressive my offer is. So I want to have an aggressive offer. I need to compete with all these other offers. If there's no other offer on a property, then I don't need to shorten anything. There's no reason to. No reason. I'm not competing against anybody. But if I'm competing against other buyers, I need to make my offer stand out. So there's a bunch of ways I can do that. One of them is tightening up my contingency timelines. Why is this important for a seller? A seller needs to move on. So, if you have a seller that's selling a property, he has to hire a moving company, right? Maybe buy another property, sign a lease on another property. At what point can the seller do that? They cannot do that until the buyer removes all contingencies. When the buyer removes all contingencies, then their deposit is now at risk, right? The seller knows now that the buyer is in it, or he loses his deposit, he or she. So that gives the seller the comfort to go buy that other house, sign that lease, hire the movers, start packing up. Okay. So in the deal, the buyer makes an offer, the seller accepts a price with a timeline. This is how long I'm giving you to remove your contingencies. And then we'll close on such and such date. That's all the seller cares about, is the contingency getting removed on time and the close date and the price, obviously. So far so good. Okay, so inspections. My most important inspector is my general. At the same time, once I have my inspector reserved for a certain day, then I'm going to book all my other inspectors around the general's time. So there's no reason to go to a property 6 different times to meet inspectors and go back and forth, because then you have to go, the other agent has to go, the sellers have to not be there during inspection. There's a lot of things that need to happen. If you can schedule everything to happen at the same time, it's the best. So first thing, I'll schedule my general inspector. If it's a house, I'm going to also do a sewer inspection. Okay. Sewer line. So there's 2 different plumbing systems. You have the incoming water. You have water coming to the property. Usually at the front of the property, it'll get split for irrigation for the whole garden, front yard, backyard. And then the other part will go into the house, and that'll feed the sinks, the showers, right? Sinks, showers, toilets, anything that needs water. That's the incoming. It's usually, hopefully, copper, the newer lines. Could be old galvanized. But you have the incoming water. And then that incoming water will also go to the water heater, and then that'll split out to the house, cold and hot. Then you have the waste lines. So the drains, the sink drains, the shower drains, the toilets, that all goes to waste lines. The waste lines go down the walls of the house, under the house, and they go to a sewer line, the main sewer line. The main sewer line from the house goes out to the city street. Amir? Okay, this is really important. We don't want sewage leaking into the land. Right? That's disgusting.
Yep.
So you have this giant sewer line, which is usually wrought iron, is it like a cast iron thing? Cast iron, sometimes clay. It'll go from cast iron to clay. Newer ones are ABS plastic. I want to inspect that. So I'm hiring a sewer video inspector. He's going to put a camera down that sewer line from as far back as he can, all the way. He's going to feed that camera and push it through all the way till it hits the city. What he's looking for is any kind of crack or break, root intrusion. We want to make sure that all the sewage is getting out to the street. There are many ways to fix sewer lines. They have these technology where they can put a fiberglass sleeve and it's like a giant balloon. They just blow a balloon down the sewer line and then it sprays 360-degree epoxy inside and creates a whole new tube inside it. That's totally fine. There's something called pipe burst where they'll actually, from the beginning, they'll dig a hole here, they'll dig a hole at that end, and they'll actually pull a new line all the way through the old one. That's called pipe burst. And then there's excavation. They can actually dig a trench for the whole line and replace the whole line. Different methods, different scenarios, you know. So important. So general inspection, sewer inspection. If you have any property that has trees in front of it, you know, it's something you need to inspect. So hopefully the camera goes down, there's no issues. Chimney. So a lot of chimneys, fireplaces were damaged in the Northridge earthquake. You know, we're in California, there's seismic activity here, we have earthquakes. It's important that the chimneys get checked. Even on brand new construction, it's very important to check the chimney. Now, you might have a buyer that says, everything's brand new, I don't need to check anything. Not true. We need to make sure that the contractors did their job properly. I have had my own experience, brand new construction. I had a chimney inspector put a camera down the chimney. And these new chimneys, you know, you see these brick rectangle boxes on the side of a house. You think that's the chimney. That could be if it's a really old one. But the newer chimneys, that's just facade. There's actually like a metal tube inside, which is the actual chimney. On these new construction properties, they're pushing these tubes into each other and twisting them to lock. Sometimes the contractor will push too hard and it'll bend, it'll buckle, and then there'll be like a gap, which is creating a fire hazard because there can be an ember that floats up and then goes outside and catches something on fire. So we need to check. So general inspection, sewer inspection, chimney inspection. Okay, electrical and plumbing. I might wait on those until after the general consideration. Because if I'm gonna have a separate plumber come out or a separate electrician come out, I want him to look at everything that came up during the general. Because the general inspector might say, I saw some leaking under the house in this area. There was some leaking in that area, right? So then when I get the plumber to the house, I'm gonna give him a list of things to look at. If I'm asking an electrician to come to the house, I'm having him give me a bid on everything that the general called out. So the general, he has this little thing he plugs into all the outlets to say if it's wired correctly, right? But voltmeter, but also that it's wired properly, positive, negative, grounded. So there's also GFCI, which are anywhere that there's water plus electricity, those outlets should be GFCI. We'll come back to that in a second. There's a lot of recalled electric panels. There was a company, Federal Pacific, thank you, Zinsco. There were millions of these panels that were put out that they didn't trip. So when you pull a lot of electrical current through a wire, it heats up. The breaker is supposed to stop the flow of current if it gets too hot or too much amperage is being pulled through the line. This particular electrical panel didn't break, didn't trip. So the line would get hotter and hotter and hotter, more amperage being, and they never trip. Fire hazard. You're gonna see this in your properties. Trust me, you're gonna come across these panels. Hopefully the seller will replace the panel when we request it because it's a fire hazard. It's a hazard. Meanwhile, the inspector looked at everything. He found exposed wiring in the attic, exposed wiring here, you know, they didn't put a plate on. So I'm saving my electrician and my plumber to come back to give me a separate bid on what the general inspector found. What other kinds of inspections? We have termite. We're in California. We have termites. So that is an inspection that you will order. Usually it's a free inspection. There might be a $99 fee if they don't find anything, and then they're just charging you for the inspection report, but it's usually free if they do the work. So termite inspection.
These private
Do you
companies or private, the termite,
Sorry?
the termite inspections, are these like private companies or? this is like city? Because-
They're licensed.
Also because as you say, it's free, but it's not.
So they might charge $99 for the report, $100 for the inspection, but usually they don't. Usually it's a free inspection. If they're.
So they make their money if they find something and you hire them to fix it.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now they might, if they find nothing,
They might charge you just because.
they might bill us for
Okay,
$99.
I got you.
Yeah, but it was worth the $99 to find out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what other?
Usually they fund anything because
It depends. I mean, look, if there's nothing, there's nothing. I mean, they can't make it up. So they have to show you what the problem is. They're gonna look at not just for termite, they're gonna look at wood rot. So all the wood that's around the house, they have a pointy stick and they're gonna walk around the house and they're gonna jab all the wood, not too hard. They'll jab it, and there is some wood that when they poke it, it'll go right through. Because you see the paint, it looks perfect, but there's no wood inside. It got all eaten. So they'll go around the house, they'll look at all the windowsills, they'll look at the thresholds underneath the doors, they'll look at all the sills in the roof, the eaves. They'll also, a termite inspector will also go into the house. When they start their inspection, they'll cover the drains and the showers on the bottom floor. And they'll turn the water on and they'll let the water go up about an inch. While they're looking through the house, they'll turn off. So then they'll continue to do their inspection. And what they're doing is, at the last part of the termite inspector's inspection, they're gonna go underneath the house. And they're gonna look when they're under there if anything is leaking in the showers. Because don't forget, they're there for wood rot also. So if anything is leaking under the showers, they're gonna call it out in their report. So we have something called section 1 and section 2 in a termite report. Section 1 and section 2. Section 1 is actual damage. Actual damage. We're gonna ask the seller to fix that. And then we have section 2. Section 2 is preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance is something we usually do not ask the seller for because there's nothing wrong. It's not damaged, it's preventative. So what is that? So section 1 is actual damage. That means the wood is rotten, it's termite eaten, it needs to get replaced. Section 2, you walk around the house and you see a hole that's not covered. That means a rodent can climb up and get into the house. That needs to have some chicken wire attached so nothing can get in, or around you don't want rats or squirrels climbing into the attic. So that needs to get meshed with chicken wire to prevent them from climbing in. That's section 2. That's preventative maintenance. We usually don't ask for section 2. We do get the seller to hopefully pay for the section 1. Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I don't have intimate knowledge of what termite inspectors do, but I've never heard of that water test.
Yeah.
Is that
It's standard.
boilerplate?
Standard.
It's pretty
Okay.
standard. They did that online.
Standard.
Yeah.
Now,
They ran all this.
And so you should ask for it if
you should ask for it. Now,
do not see them doing it, or you should just ask for it.
you can just ask the termite guy, are you checking the showers? He'll check them, but he should check them. I mean, he should.
Yeah.
You can remind him. You can remind him.
Sure.
Now, the other question is he checking the fences and the garage? Right, because we used to have termite specified in our purchase contract. It got taken out. The reason that it was removed from the purchase contract is because what was happening is buyers were asking for sellers to pay for section 1 in advance. So the old offers used to say seller pay section 1. It came with the offer. We would have a pest addendum attached. California Association of Realtors said, you know what, it's really not fair that you're asking a seller in advance to pay for it. So they removed it. Their intention originally, when it first was put into the contract, was that a listing agent would order a termite inspection when they listed the property. That was their original thinking, that we took a listing and we ordered a termite inspection immediately, but it never did. Listing agents didn't do it. So what ended up happening was sellers were agreeing to it without knowing how much they were agreeing to. Yeah,
So is it now buyer's agent?
it's now it's the buyer's responsibility to order the termite inspection with their other inspections. Yes. If you have a property on a hillside, you want a geological inspection, right? Structural, geological.
I saw one of those with my mentor, where it was exactly that. I was like, this is so interesting.
So interesting, a geological inspection. Every time I drive on Laurel Canyon and I see these houses on 3 stilts, it freaks me out.
Yeah.
The whole house is horizontal with nothing under it. It's so crazy. You have the edge of the house against the mountain. You have the entire house in the air, and then 3 posts on the end.
So houses,
A lot of them. Ton of them.
so houses on stilts in lots.
They're sunk into concrete, but that's no good.
It's crazy. It
Yeah.
just freaks me out.
Yeah.
It freaks me out. Like, I just don't know how, you put a piano in there?
Have you ever asked for that if you know ahead of time that it was built on like a landfill, like you mentioned earlier, like if you have reason to suspect that there might.
I think anytime you're on hillside, you should have a geological inspection, anytime.
Right, but what if you have like suspicion that the topsoil or that there's no bedrock, that the.
So I don't know, it's not my forte.
Fair
I'm a
enough.
real estate agent, so all I can do is recommend the inspection. That's all I can do. I don't want to not recommend that inspection. Right?
And geological inspections cost by the square footage.
Unfortunately, you got to do your homework on the Yelp. So I love Yelp because I use it all the time for different things. Like I can find a great electrician for a certain job on Yelp, but then I call him again for the next job and it's this crazy high price. So what I've found is every single job I'm trying to bid, I go on Yelp every single time. So it's just crazy like that. Yeah.
I seem to recall, I don't remember the exact name, but it was an inspector for, I wasn't sure if it was mold or
Oh.
it was like a
Thank you.
biohazard.
Thank you for bringing that up. Okay.
That type.
Mold inspection. There are some agents that will say that's the most important inspection, even more than general. They only care about mold. The thing with mold is it can be easily hidden, right? So if a property was just painted before it came on the market, we have no idea what's going on behind the walls. A mold inspector will come in with a moisture meter. That's what it was. And he will put it along all the walls and see if there's any moisture in the walls. He also will have an infrared camera
Yeah, it was
and he
like-
will look, on everywhere to see if there's temperature differences. Usually water is cold. So there'll be a cold area inside the walls, colder than the other walls that are dry. So some people say that's the most important inspection. Mold can, yeah. I don't want to comment and give my opinion about mold because mold exists in the environment. It's everywhere. So if there's an affected area, We just don't know. Now, we're not allowed to do invasive inspections. Invasive means drilling a hole, putting a camera and looking behind. We can't do that without the seller's permission. We can only do topical inspection. So there is some danger. If the mold inspector is saying there could be mold all behind this wall, then that's a conversation to be had with the seller that you might want to ask them to allow you to open up a wall and see what's behind it. Right after there were some major rains last year, there were some major rains at one point. Everything got soaked. But I was in the middle of a deal on a condo and the whole wall of the condo got soaked in the rains. And inside the kitchen, everything was wet. All the walls were wet. So it became an issue. I'm not sure, I don't remember what happened. But it's the best time to inspect anything in California is right after a rain, because it never rains here in Southern California. It is the best time you can inspect properties right when it rains, because you just don't know. And anytime after a rain, I tell a buyer, you're so lucky it just rained. Really.
To me, if an inspector said everything's okay, but after a while the buyer finds something, what happened?
So.
For example, the mold,
Okay,
after a few, it's like 1 month.
so you hired a mold inspector. They hired a
Yeah,
mold.
yeah, they said it's okay.
And they didn't find it.
Yeah.
There's mold later. So the question is, was there mold previously or did it just happen? That's the question, right? They would have to prove, I guess, to hold the inspector liable, they would have to prove that the mold existed and they missed it. Right? I don't know what the contract is with the mold inspector about him missing something. I'm sure there's something you're teaching him if it is. So you want to have a good mold inspector. Pool. Property has a pool.
Yeah.
There are some general inspectors that will inspect the pool and the pool equipment. There are some general inspectors that don't do it, and you'll have to hire a separate pool inspector. So just something to keep in mind. It's a question you're gonna ask the general. Do you inspect pools? You know, the property has a pool. Now, this would only be for a house. Obviously, if it's a condo, you're not inspecting the pool at the condo. Okay.
Yep, framing, HVAC, foundation.
Okay, so the general inspector, is usually going to call out something with the air conditioning or the roof if he thinks it should be further inspected. So if the general inspector is saying, these ducts look like they might have asbestos, right, in the ducting. So asbestos is it's a hard substance that's an insulation. It was used many years ago. If it becomes airborne, if it gets moved and becomes airborne, the particles, that is a carcinogen, it's health hazard.
Also, when they do the ceilings.
Right, so you have those popcorn acoustic ceilings. So there are some acoustic ceilings that have asbestos, some don't. The only way to know is really to send a piece of it to a lab. But if you have a property that has acoustic ceiling and it was built before 78, probably has, maybe, probably. Anytime that there's asbestos, acoustic ceiling, any kind of hazard like that, mold, it needs to be removed by a licensed remediator. So those are people that come in, they have hazmat suits, they'll tape up plastic. That's the real way to do it. If you just hire a contractor to come in and do it, they shouldn't be doing it. The contractor that comes in shouldn't be doing it, because only a licensed person that knows how to handle that should be handling it. Yeah.
My wife and I did.
Yeah, so
For our condo.
you really got to be careful.
And yeah, we scraped the ceilings and everything like that, and then like in
Wow.
little closets.
Did you wear a respirator?
Oh, yeah, we were
Yeah.
decked out, and it was quite a thing, but you can also put wallboard on the ceiling.
yeah.
In closets, like
Yes.
way up there,
Yes.
and zip that in and then paint over it.
Yeah.
And I did like 3 or 4 coats.
All right, so today we're talking about inspections and negotiations, all right? Okay, so here we are, we're in our deal. I have. Take one and pass. I missing one?
He's missing.
Did I hand enough out? Great, thank you. All right, so the first page I put on here is how to access the real estate contracts, just because it is a question that comes up, right? How to access the contracts. So there's two different areas to access the contracts. One is online at car.org. And then there, you can also download zip form standard. I do recommend that everyone download zip form and install it on their computer. Because there will be a situation where CAR is not working. Either your internet's down or their server's updating or something's happening. It's always good to have zip form installed on your computer just as a backup. Okay. So I put the instructions on that front page. All right. So I'm actually going to pull up a contract here and share it. So
Yeah, I remember.
Dealing with super slow computer. This might just be too hard to do.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much.
Hello.
No worries.
Yes, yeah.
What's your name?
So I'm having a shared issue.
I will. 2 hours.
I don't have my screen share.
Hours, up to 2 hours.
I don't see my screen share, what is it? All right, I don't, oh, there it is. It's not in there. Screen share.
I'll be.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I don't know why this is so slow, guys.
What are we gonna go through on the,
So we're gonna talk about request for repair right now.
let's repair?
That's
Request
what we
for
are.
repair.
Request for repair.
We're gonna be here.
So this desktop is being shared, I think. So,
Okay.
If I may be excused, I do have to.
yeah.
Lordy, is that okay? Thank you, JJ. Appreciate all your help like always. Could be posted on that thing. That friend's condo.
This is just so painfully slow. I don't even know how I'm gonna be able to do this. What's it called? So we're gonna just.
I wish they could.
No.
Thank you.
Oh, like next class? Right now, I think he's trying to pull up a contract. His contract shows the sound.
Oh. For me, it's okay.
You can read. I have to read by one, too.
For me, it's 3.
Oh.
So anyone who needs help accessing CAR,
Have to.
Just day after class, and I'll help you with it.
Going the girl done.
You just follow along via the.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just doing this for the people that are on Zoom. Time for a new computer in here. What do you think? Way, yes. All right, so as we're waiting for the computer to catch up. All right, so we are at the point now where we wrote an offer. We did our inspections. The inspections have now come back to us. Now we're reviewing all these inspections with our buyer. Our buyer now has a list of everything wrong with the property, and they're panicking. So we need to keep it in perspective. I put together a spreadsheet. Usually this is how I handle it. I will open a spreadsheet and I will put different categories on my spreadsheet. Electrician, plumber, handyman, specialty. Specialty will be HVAC. That's the heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Okay, that's HVAC. It's the air conditioning and heating. So I'll go through the inspection report page by page, and I'll actually put what is being called out in the report, the page number, and then I'll put my guesstimate on a price to fix it. So again, I'm calling it a guesstimate. I'm guessing. For electrical items, I'm figuring an electrician's going to charge about $75 an hour. So if there's a few outlets that need to get replaced, I might put like $225, $250 on something like that. For plumbing, I don't know. So I know if you go on Yelp and you go on Yelp and you can request quotes, estimates from people. There are people that will not give a quote unless they come out to the property. They'll say, I'll give you a free estimate, but I need to come out. Or we charge this much amount of money. If you use us, we'll take it off the work. I don't use any of those people.
The red line item.
So anything that's in, usually the inspector will put whatever they're calling out in red. And then those are the items that will be on my spreadsheet. What I like to do is I like to list every single thing that the inspector called out in its category, plumbing, electrical, handyman, and I'll put a number on it, what I think it'll take to fix it. What's going to happen is I'm going to add up all those numbers and I'm going to have a grand total of what it's going to cost to fix everything perfect in this property, right? That's everything, the chimney, the sewer line, everything on the general, HVAC, everything. So now that's a number now that I am going to be asking the seller for. There are some things on the inspection that I'm going to be able to expect from the seller, hopefully, and some things that are not realistic to ask the seller for. So before we talked about GFCI outlets. A GFCI outlet is an electrical outlet that's installed anywhere near a sink, anywhere that there's water. So in every bathroom, above the sink, near the sink, in the kitchen, anywhere around the countertops, in the laundry area, anywhere that there's water, there should be an outlet that has that on and off switch that'll trip by itself. And if it trips, you need to push the button to turn it back on. What that does is, if it detects any kind of moisture or flesh, it'll automatically turn off to prevent electrocution. So that is not something that a seller should pay for. Because it could be considered an upgrade. Okay, now this all depends on when the property was built. If the property is newer built, it's a newly built property and there is already a GFCI there and it's not working, that we can ask for. But if it's an old house built in the 30s, 40s, 50s, And the outlets there, none of them are GFCI. We can't ask the seller to replace them to GFCI because that's considered an upgrade. It's not a fix. Everything there is working. It was according to code when the house was built. That would be considered an upgrade. So we're not asking the seller for upgrades. We're asking the seller to fix things that are broken. That's basically, or a hazard. That's what we're asking for.
Okay, does it have to be GFCI?
Any outlet that's near water should be GFCI according to current code. But if the house was built before that code, then it's an upgrade, right? But if there's a GFCI there and it's not working, we can ask for that, because that's a hazard. Yeah.
However, am I wrong to assume that like asking them to pay for like, I forget what it's called, ultra flow or what's it, like when the toilet needs to be like energy efficient?
Oh, the low flow toilet?
Yeah,
So, okay, so part of our
like if they
offer,
aren't conforming.
yeah, so let's talk about our offer. In our residential purchase agreement, it asks in the, right up front in the beginning, who's gonna pay for,
Gas shut
who's gonna pay for smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, and water heater strapping. That's in there right away.
Water heater.
Water heater straps. So they're around the gas water heaters, they're very heavy, those huge water heaters. So they need to be strapped. They need to be attached to the wall, strapped, in case of earthquake, so they don't tip over. We're asking upfront for the seller to pay. There's actually three boxes in the purchase agreement that have to do with retrofitting. One is gonna be smoke alarms, carbon monoxide, and water heaters. That is everywhere in California. But then you have local city ordinances that are gonna cover emergency earthquake gas shut off valve. So if there's seismic activity, the gas meter will shut off. Then there's low flow toilets and low flow shower heads, 1.6 gallon per minute.
So those are boxes that you check?
We'll be checking that the seller pays for them upfront. Yes. Now, there's a trick in the purchase agreement. When we get to the purchase agreement, we'll talk about it. You can be super aggressive in your offer, and it'll say, you can be asking the seller to pay for a termite completion report. If you ask the seller upfront to pay for a termite completion report, this is exactly what CAR didn't want us to do. If you ask the seller upfront to pay for a termite completion report, you're basically asking the seller to do all the termite. It's the only way they can provide a completion report is if the termite stuff was
Gotcha.
completed. So it's a sneaky thing. I do it. I do it. It depends. If there's a lot of offers, I don't do it. But if I'm the only person, of course I'm gonna do it. And ask the seller to pay.
So you pick that battle according to, I guess, the type of house, the type of.
Every deal's different. Every single deal is different. Okay, now, the seller does not have to agree to any request. The seller, in the beginning of this transaction, agreed to sell their house at a certain price as is. That's all the seller has to do. They have to sell their house at the agreed upon price and close on time. That's it. That's all the seller has to do. Now, in order to close on time, the seller has to sign a grant deed, and they have to deliver that grant deed to escrow. Escrow is gonna hold the grant deed. The grant deed basically says, I'm Mr. or Mrs. Seller, and deeding my property to Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. That grant deed gets recorded in the county, and that's official. That means the property has now changed ownership. That's it. The recording of that document is the change of ownership. Now, escrow is gonna hold that signed grant deed. Escrow is gonna collect the money from the buyer and the lender, if there's a lender. Once escrow is holding both of those items, the grant deed and the money, then escrow will record the grant deed and disperse the money to the seller and pay off everything that's owed. So all the seller has to do is agree to a purchase price and close escrow on time. That's all they have to do. The buyer has to pay the amount of money that they agreed to buy the property for. They need to remove their contingencies on time and close on time. That's what the buyer has. So the buyer is the offer that the buyer wrote was is an as-is offer. It says in the purchase contract, this is as is, but it's as is, I know the property to be today. Like if I walk into a property that has a giant hole in the wall, I'm not gonna ask a credit down the road for the hole in the wall. Obviously, it had a hole in the wall. I was writing my offer knowing it had that hole. But what I'm going to ask for is things I didn't know about. Now that I inspected the property, I'm aware of things I was not previously aware of. I'm aware of hazards now. I would like you, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, to fix this, please.
And then if they don't accept that.
They don't have to. They don't have to.
They have to
They don't have
because it's as is.
Correct. Now, we have a form called request for repair. Okay, so that's what's up on the screen. So this is the form that we're gonna use. Now, we can use this form to ask the seller to make an actual repair. We can also ask for a credit. You know, item C here says buyer requests that seller credit this amount of money. And we can also ask here for a price reduction. The revised purchase price shall be. So this form can do three things. It can ask for a repair, it can ask for a price reduction, or it can ask for a credit. Okay, so if you have a cash buyer that's not getting a loan, the best thing for your cash buyer is a price reduction. They don't need a credit. Because credit is usually going to go towards loan fees, mostly loan. Or they're reimbursing a seller for prepaid property tax. But usually there's not a lot of closing costs there. What are closing costs? Escrow fees, title fees, loan fees. You know, but for a buyer, it's not that much. The loan fee is going to be
Part of the tax of that year.
property tax. So the seller prepays property tax. And then the buyer is going to reimburse the seller for the property tax that they no longer own the property. So escrow is going to be in charge of prorating everything. The seller is responsible for all fees up until the sale date. The buyer is responsible for all fees going past the sale date.
I have one question regarding recording.
Okay.
Imagine the buyer got no dogs, little bit loan. And then after 3-4 months, when the escrow is closed, he paid all of his loan. Then he got all this paper. Who has to record it? Is it city? Is it again the escrow office?
I'm not sure exactly what your question is.
When you finish the loan
Yes.
and then
Okay, so basically, when the loan was originally taken, there was a note. The buyer signed the loan. It's called a note. Included in that note is a document called reconveyance. And what happens is when a loan gets paid off, then the reconveyance gets recorded.
yes.
The reconveyance says the loan's paid off. Title is going to make sure that happens.
On that one, it's with title.
Title, all the money goes to title. So the buyer is putting their money into escrow. The lender is sending their money to escrow. The day of closing, escrow sends all that money to title. And then title records the grantee and sends the money back to escrow. Because title wants to make sure that there's money. It's not a fraudulent escrow, right? The money has to go through title because title is insuring the sale. The title wants the money. Yep. Okay, now request for repair. Let's read this. We're gonna get into contracts today real quick. These are not complicated. Request for repair. So we're gonna put today's date prepared is today. And this is our request for repair. This is going to the seller. This is our request. In accordance with the terms and conditions of the purchase agreement. So don't forget, in our purchase agreement, we had a certain amount of days for our inspection, our investigation. So we're normally submitting this our last day. That's normal. So in accordance with the terms and conditions of the purchase agreement, dated, and then here I put in parentheses RPA date. The first page of the purchase agreement, it says date prepared. That's the date that we're referencing, the date prepared. And then it has the property address, it has the buyer's name, the seller's name. Buyer and seller are referred to as parties. Okay, buyer request, check all that apply. Note, seller has no obligation to respond to the buyer's request. Okay, the seller does not even have to respond to this, but we're gonna ask. Now, why will the seller respond? Why? Because this is a negotiation. My buyer is saying, The only way I'm gonna remove contingencies and go forward with this deal is if you agree to fix this, or if you agree to credit or lower the price. Otherwise, I'm canceling the deal and I'm backing out. So in exchange for the repairs that I'm asking you to do, in exchange for the credit, I will remove my contingencies and we can go forward with the deal. This is the negotiation. Okay? All right, buyer request. Buyer requests that the seller, prior to final verification of condition, repair or take other specified action for each item listed below or on the attached list. So if you're actually asking the seller to make a repair, you'll check this box and you'll put what the repair is. I advise not asking the seller to make a repair. I advise asking the seller for a credit. The seller is gonna find the cheapest person to do it. It's not gonna be to the buyer's satisfaction. The seller will be responsible for the repair after the fact, and it's gonna be not pleasant after the deal closes, right? So I think the buyer should get a credit for it, hire their own person to repair it. If there's a problem, the buyer can contact the person that they hired to come back and fix it, right?
Mention though that if it's a cash, if it's all cash, then.
Yeah. If it's a cash deal, then I'm just asking for a price reduction
Okay,
or a credit. I mean, there still will be some closing costs. So we can ask for, it just depends what it is. I mean, if you inspected a chimney and the chimney is not operative because it has major cracks in it and it's gonna be cheaper just to rebuild the chimney, that could be a $30,000 rebuild. I'm just gonna ask for a price reduction for $30,000. Okay. In addition to asking for actual repairs, now, there's also a danger of putting repairs on this document. Because a lender can say, whoa, time out, we're not funding this loan until these repairs are completed. Okay, and then the seller now has to come out of pocket, which they may not even have the money to do. The seller is now gonna have to come out of pocket and make these repairs, okay? Or the loan is not gonna happen. Or there could be an issue, so I prefer not to have the actual repair. It's always better to get a credit and let the buyer do it themselves. I say always, I don't like to use the word always, but most of the time, yeah.
wouldn't it behoove the buyer to ask for a price reduction rather than a credit because they would ultimately pay less on their property tax?
Yes, so the seller will be paying less transfer taxes and the buyer will be paying less property taxes.
Okay.
It's such a small
I
amount though,
imagine.
it's because property taxes are 1.25%. So if you're talking about 1.25% of 30,000, I don't know, it's.
But over time. no?
Over time, yeah. I mean, of course, every penny counts, right? Okay, section 1 and section 2, remember we were talking about the termite and wood rot? Okay, here's where we would ask the seller to do the actual termite wood replacement or wood rot replacement. So we can check that box and say buyer requests seller pay to have section 1 work completed. Now, when you get the termite report back, the termite report is gonna look the same no matter what termite company that you use. It has a map of the property on the front page. It has a final bill, how much amount is being charged on the last page. That every single, it's actually mandated by the state what a termite report looks like. So they're all will look the same. Anytime that a termite company finds termites, they have to recommend fumigation. Even if it's a tiny little bit somewhere, they have to recommend fumigation. Now, what'll happen is if it's in one little place, they're obviously not gonna fumigate the entire house because it's in one little place. They'll do what we call local treatment. They'll inject like some kind of poison in that little area. So just keep in mind, they have to recommend fumigation, even though property not necessarily needs to be fumigated. Okay, so we're gonna ask the seller to pay for the section 1, do that, temp the house, do that work. Section 2, we're not gonna ask the seller for, that's preventative maintenance. But we will, if we are asking for this, we're gonna fill out prepared by your termite company, whoever your termite company used. Or if you're using C, buyer requests that seller credit buyer this amount of close of escrow. Anytime we ask for a credit or price reduction, we need to call the lender first and ask the lender, how much will you allow for credit? Very important. It depends, don't forget, remember we were talking before about mortgage brokers and they have different sources of money. Depending on where that source of money comes from, they're gonna have their own criteria about how much credit a buyer can have. So usually a buyer can't have a credit larger than the closing costs. Okay, you had asked before about buying a loan rate down. One way of increasing closing costs is to buy the rate down. So if we need to spend money, we can ask the lender, how much will it cost to buy the rate down a little bit? And that's a way of us increasing the closing costs to allow for our credit. Here we can also say that the seller modified the purchase price. The revised purchase price shall be, and we'll put a number in there. Here, attached reports. Now, keep in mind, any report that we give to the seller has to be disclosed to any potential future buyer. So when you deliver your yellow pages book of things that are wrong with the property, along with this request, the seller now has a dilemma because now any future buyer, they're gonna have to give that phone book to. All right? So you put them in a predicament, basically, like you force their hand, they're gonna have to agree to something. Because unless they have a backup offer with no contingencies at all, they're gonna have to now disclose everything that you've just sent them, right? So just keep that in mind, the listing agent and the seller will now have to disclose any reports that are delivered. Okay. If your loan is through FHA or VA, they will have their own requirements about things that need to get repaired. An appraiser that comes out on an FHA or VA loan has additional things that they have to fill out for their appraisal. And they're looking for chipped paint, the lawn, things that are gonna have to get repaired before they'll lend their money. Okay, so basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the date, we're gonna ask for credit or for repair or for price reduction. We're gonna check the section 1 box for termite. And then now we have, I wanna call your attention to paragraph 4. Paragraph 4 says, if the seller agrees to all of the buyer's requests, buyer removes the investigation of property contingency. Okay, this did not used to be here. Contingencies used to have to be removed on a contingency removal form. This is a newer paragraph statement here. It says, if the seller agrees to all of the buyer's requests, buyer removes the investigation of property contingency. So this is something to be aware of. You're talking to your buyer and you're saying, if the seller agrees to everything, we are removing our inspection contingency. Okay, so this is the conversation now we're talking about.
But this is already after inspection.
This is after you've done your inspections and now this is your grand finale. This is your request now to the seller. This is what we're asking for to continue and commit to this deal. Yeah.
And that's when their deposit is at risk if they back out, once you remove all contingencies.
All. So this is only talking about the investigation of property contingency.
Okay.
Now, what'll usually happen is the seller will say, I only want to agree to all of this if you remove all contingencies, investigation, loan, and appraisal. That's usually what will happen. So this just depends on timing now. Now, let's continue. It says we can remove something or nothing. Like it says here for A2, buyer removes those contingencies identified on the attached CAR form contingency removal. So we can attach our own contingency removal and only remove the investigation, which was already being done here. But this is how it was always been done. We would attach a contingency removal form. Now, I would check this box and remove all. Like maybe the lender is saying, yes, you're okay. The appraisal already came back. We're ready to remove all. I would check this box and attach a contingency removal form that removes all contingencies. That way the seller knows they have a deal. They accept our terms, what we're asking for, they have a solid deal, right? The expiration of this is 5 p.m. on the 3rd day after it's signed by the buyer. Now, what is the seller gonna do now? The seller now receives your request for repair. The seller can Seller agrees to all of buyer's requests. The seller can check this box and sign, and you're done. That's it. They agreed to everything. Done. Or the seller can check this box and only agree to some of the things that you asked for. Or the seller can not do anything on this form. Seller responds to buyer request on the attached form. So we have another form called RRRR, which we'll look at in a second. And it's for the seller, it's the seller's response form. Or seller can do this one. Seller does not agree to any of buyer's requests. Okay, the seller doesn't have to. And then if the seller does not agree to any of the buyer's requests, or the seller responds with partial, then we have to respond now. We accept what the seller is agreeing to, or we don't accept what the seller is trying to agree to, and we're gonna make a new request. So there's a lot of options that we can do. The form will cover any scenario. Okay, now we want to add here,
And again, they could just completely ignore this.
the seller can ignore it, yes. Yes. Okay, so let's look at, oops. Seller response. Okay, seller response. Now, seller received our request for repair. Now, the seller has the choice to use this form. And the seller can say that they agree to all of our requests in request for repair number 1, except the following. And they can just say that what they don't agree to. Or they might say, you know what, you asked for you asked for a $5,000 credit, we're only agreeing to a $2,500 credit. They're gonna check that box and say at close of escrow, $2,500. If they don't agree to our full ask on purchase price reduction, they're gonna check this box and say purchase price shall be that. So the form basically covers anything. Now, it says, note, any credit included in this paragraph is separate and shall not reduce or supersede any other credit in the agreement. That means if we wrote an offer for $500,000, and then we also asked in our original offer for a 10,000 credit, right? Because we were already using that for closing costs. Our new request here doesn't include the 10,000 that the seller already agreed to. It's an addition. So that's what that paragraph is saying. Seller's conditions, seller agreement only applies if the buyer removes the investigation contingency. Buyer removes those contingencies identified on the signed contingency removal form. So it's covering all the scenarios. And then again, if the buyer and seller just can't get to an agreement, there's another chance here to cancel it and sign a new one.
May I ask something?
Yeah.
Let's say the closing costs, like everything is like 5K and the seller credits the buyer 10K. What happens to?
Okay, great question. Closing costs are 5,000, it's 5,000, and the seller is crediting 10,000. The seller's credit is in excess of closing costs. Okay. In that case, the buyer will lose the $5,000. They'll lose it. Because in the purchase contract, it says that seller credits cannot exceed the lender's allowable credit. Now, that's why I said earlier, I'm so glad you brought that up, thank you. That's why I said earlier, the first call before you do this is to the lender saying, well, how much is the maximum allowable credit? Because you need to know that. If you're asking for more than the maximum allowable credit, you need to do a price reduction. That's the only way to get the money.
And what is that based on?
That's based on the lender, their funding source,
Okay,
what their criteria is. Because wherever that money is coming from, they're going to sell that loan in the secondary market. They have to market it. It's gonna get bundled into a group of loans. That bundle has criteria. So if I'm buying a bundle of loans, like I'm a major investor and I'm buying $100 million bundle, I know that all the loans in that bundle have, not more than, there were no credits larger than the closing. So what they're trying to avoid is a buyer having no skin in the game. Right? I can get a FHA loan 3.5% out of my pocket, but then my credits were 4%. So I actually just bought a property and got paid to buy it. And I have no skin in the game whatsoever. That's what they're trying to avoid. Okay, that's it. Let's just take a look at the contingency removal real quick. So here's the contingency removal. We have to be very careful how we fill this out. If you are including a buyer contingency removal with your request for repair, make sure that you check this box that the buyer contingency removal is being attached to the request for repair. If you do not check that box and you're checking here, all buyer hereby removes all contingencies, and you send this without checking that request for repair box, you've just removed all contingencies. And the seller doesn't need to do anything, and all your contingencies are removed. So just be very careful. You have to check this box that it's attached to the request for repair. That means if they don't agree to the request for repair, you have not removed your contingencies. Right? This is buyer contingency removal is attached to the request for repair because we're attaching it as a negotiation. We're agreeing to remove all contingencies only if you agree to all of our requests. Okay? Now, this contingency removal allows us to remove a loan contingency only, an appraisal contingency only, certain aspects of our investigation of property. Again, this is going to be different for every scenario that you guys are in. But the most important one that counts is this one, paragraph 4. Buyer hereby removes any and all buyer contingencies. So that's the granddaddy of all, that one right there. And that's it. So once contingencies are removed, your buyer's deposit is now on the hook. If they don't finish this deal and close it, it is possible that the seller can get that deposit. So we'll get to that point when we'd have to. Hopefully we'll never have to. So hopefully everything is good and your buyer completes this. All right.
We have a class tomorrow?
So tomorrow. We have a special class tomorrow on database. It's going to be on the command database. So someone's teaching tomorrow. He's a master faculty. He's going for his master faculty training certification for Keller Williams.
Who's that?
He's in this office. It's first time I met him.
Anthony Rollins.
Anthony Rollins.
Okay, we'll
Yeah.
be at the same time.
It'll be here at 10 a.m. So he only has one class left to get his master faculty training certification from Keller Williams, and this was the class. And I thought the database is our most important class anyways. So we might as well have a database training class tomorrow. The most important.
And then you're right after that.
I'm not doing a class tomorrow.
Oh.
Am I? Am I on?
It says new agent origination.
New agent orientation.
Yeah.
So new agent orientation is for me to help you get into the system. So, actually, new agent orientation is just about the office. So, but I'm here to help you now if you want to get into the system. So, we can do that. Class, this is the second floor. Yes.
So there's no 11 a.m. tomorrow, sorry?
Is there something on KWVH virtual?
I thought I'd put something in there, but perhaps I'm mistaken.
It's on that.
I saw a 10 a.m. breakthrough closer and then an 11.
Oh, breakthrough closer, is that me? At 10? Is it on? Is it still on there? So I am doing a 10 o'clock? I am doing it?
I believe so.
What is this?
I usually copy it straight to my Google Calendar.
I'm doing whatever on the calendar, so
Yeah, something.
right now I'm logging in. Let me see what's going on. Okay, so,
New Orient,
You go to chat.
5:45.
so today is Wednesday.
What's the class on?
So on Thursday night,
Roll your data.
I do a new agent orientation
Okay.
for agents that work during the day. And then on Friday, I do one during the day. But it's the same orientation over and over and over again, just welcome to the office. Okay, yeah.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I transferred from the Santa Monica office.
Oh, okay.
So should I come to the agent orientation?
I'm,
Oh.
so, I mean,
Okay,
you can
cool.
zoom in or you can be here, up to you, it's totally up to you.
It's nice, it's comfortable.
All right, just making sure, you know. Oh, you do? Okay, cool. I was about to say that. Okay, all right, so I'm saying as new as possible.
That's right.
And you meet the new agent.
Class tomorrow.
Ah, it's not in
Oh, it's like my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not doing anything.
Oh my God, that's not my.
Ever change the calendar?
The
Like,
calendar gets changed all the time, yeah.
Did that? Oh, okay, gotcha.
that's great.
Okay, so you create. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Of course.
Gotcha.
So, you know, it's gonna be the same thing over and over, but it just takes time for it to click. I mean, things should be clicking
Yeah.
right now, right? I mean, it's the same thing over and over. I mean, we're taking our buyer, we're finding our property, doing comps, we're deciding what to write the offer for. Write the offer, submit it, hopefully get accepted.
The familiarity of it is sinking. in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Can you do a class on, like, on the MLS to find comps?
Yeah, we can do one right now, as long as there's no one coming in right now. Today's the 27th. Yeah, let's do a comp. Or anyone who wants to stay for.
That's one thing that is kind of.
Let's do it. Do it. Comp.
We come for the rental and for the sale, it's the
Same
same.
thing. Same strategy. Okay, so let me walk in real quick.
Give you address for lease?
For a lease, we're gonna do a lease comp, yeah. We haven't done a lease comp. Let's do a lease comp. Okay, the MLS. This computer is just gonna kill me.
They're having scheduled maintenance.
What has scheduled maintenance, the MLS?
MLS?
During the day?
Yeah, right now. Our
No way.
website is undergoing some,
You gotta be
so
kidding.
the site will be temporarily unavailable.
During the day?
Wednesday, the 27th from 10:30 to 12.
Also, that's now.
This time.
Oh, no, it's tonight.
Oh, PM.
Yeah,
All right, PM, sorry.
They're gonna put everybody out of business.
I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, so the first step with any comp is pulling the public records. Because, well, first step with any comp for sale is pulling the public records. I'd like to know what's going on with the property. How much is owed on it, if there's any pressure for the seller that they have to sell, it's all important. But, okay, scheduled maintenance, I see what you're looking at. Okay, so we're gonna look at a lease now and do a lease comp. All right, let's get the address. What's the address?
736
736?
North Alta Vista.
736. This stuff. Sounds like a tough one to comp. Okay, so I hope that there are similar properties that we can find. Sounds like you're giving me a real challenge here.
No, it's not. It's
The easiest
family
properties,
house.
the easiest properties to comp are gonna be condos. Those are the
Condos.
easiest because you just go in the same building.
If
Okay.
you don't have any in that building, then that creates a problem.
What was the comment?
You say you just go in the same.
I go in the same building and I look for the most recent sales or leases and then compare my property to those.
Okay, so if nothing sold for like 2 years.
Then that's an issue. Yeah. But 2 years is not that long.
Okay.
Okay,
You
736.
usually want 5 comps?
So an appraiser has to do 3 comps. Let's see what we come up with. 736 North Alta Vista Boulevard. And then I like to write down the beds and baths, so this is 4-bed, 2-bath, 2,248 square feet. It's built in 1926. Let me see, what else, the APN number. So the reason I'm doing this is because of my search. I'm gonna need this information later. 5525011024. Okay, so it's offering 2.5% commission. I'm always gonna look at that. Okay. I'm just gonna glance at that and make sure it's not $1. Okay, 2.5%. Let's see who the agents are. Maybe I know them. Maybe they're in this office. Okay, it is in this office. Okay. All right, so here we are. Let's do it. So we're on it's 2,248 on a 7,700 lot.
Real quick, where did you pull the APN?
Right there, right.
Okay, up there, okay.
Okay, now that I have that information, I'm gonna exit that window. And hopefully I did not get, okay, so now I would normally go search public records if I'm looking at a sale, but I'm not. So I'm gonna go search CMA, comparative market analysis. And we're gonna do a CMA. So I do search CMA. And now I'm going to create a new CMA down here. Create new CMA. I'm gonna name my CMA the property address, 736 North Alta Vista Boulevard. The client's name is 736 North Alta Vista. That's the way I do it. I don't like to put names in that area. It's not the property. Now this is important. I'm selecting lease because that's where my search is going to be for similar leases. So, continue. Okay, now I'm going to look up a specific property. The APN number for that property was 5525-011. Search. Okay, these are all the times this property's been listed in the MLS. And the one that does not have MLS information is the public records. But our MLS, CLAW, this is the format for CLAW. It has the year and then a number. So I'm gonna use the most recent one, which is here, 2023. I'm gonna select that and then hit continue. Now I'm gonna search for comps, searching for comparable. So when I'm searching for comparable, I wanna do the best I can apples to apples. So I'm going to search for sold property, which means leased. I'm gonna click that D. And for leases, I'm gonna go back a year. So I'm gonna hit that drop down box. Okay, thank you. And I'm gonna go back 12 months. If this was for sale, I might go back 6 months because that's all an appraiser can go back. But this is a lease, I'm gonna go back 12 months. I'm gonna hit okay. Now I need to find similar property. I'm gonna do a map search. So I'm not hitting any other criteria here. I'm just using the map search. Okay, now on the map search, again, I'm gonna put the APN number. That's how I'm searching. 5525-011-02. Okay. There's our property right there. I'm gonna zoom in. And I'm going to change my view from road to satellite. Now I can get a better picture of what I'm looking at because I want to compare again apples to apples. Okay. So just looking at this, I want to show you where my eyeballs are going and what my thinking is. I see here Melrose. I see commercial properties on Melrose, north and south side of the street. I see Waring Avenue here has also maybe some large condo building or apartment building there. Now, if my property was on this corner or directly across from these buildings, I would have privacy concerns. This property is here. So I don't have a privacy concern from these buildings being able to look into my windows. Okay. If I was comping a property that was right on Waring, I would try to find properties only on Waring that are across from a similar building. So looking at this property, I don't see any kind of privacy concern. I see it has solar on the roof. That's really nice. It looks like it's back to back with another large property. This looks like a nice area, nice house. Okay. I'm also looking just at the lots. This is a nice, it looks really nice. Okay. Now, if you look, I don't know what this is. This is Melrose Elementary. Okay, here's a school. So if I'm comping a house that's across the street from a school, I only want to comp it with houses that are across the street from the school. Okay. Again, I'm trying to compare apples to apples. This street on Formosa right here has traffic on it from pickup and drop off. Alta Vista might not, right? Or not as much. So that's where I'm going with this. All right, now I need to pick an area for my comps. So over on the left side, I'm going to draw a polygon, and I'm trying to figure out now where my polygon is going to go. There's a lot of multifamily up here. I'm going to have to use this section all in here for my comps, and I'm not going to use the houses on Formosa. So I'm going to draw a polygon, and I'm going to go all along there and down, and I'm not going to hit the houses that are next to that commercial either. So I'm going to come down here.
You're avoiding the corners.
I am avoiding being next to the commercial. So I'm going to try to find some leases that occurred here. Now I did cross Gardner. Gardner is a major street. But let's just see what pops up. So I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm going to press count. Remember, my search was for leases in the past 1 year. I didn't get that many results, but I'm going to click CMA to see what came up. So, wow.
Is 3 enough?
So, no, there's not a lot of results. There's not a lot of results here. Now,
Yeah.
look at these prices. Alta Vista is asking 6,900, but let's say we just don't know that. Let's look at North Vista and North Stanley. They had prices of 17,000 and 35,000 per month. And they leased for 16,000 and 35,000. So this one says days on market 561. Something's up with that. This doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. So I'm going to actually click on the MLS number right here, which will pull up more information on the property.
And then the one is 16,000 is.
Okay, but I need to know. Now I'm investigating what's going on. So let's see what this is. Lease 35,000 a month. Fully furnished. Available short-term rental. Okay. So usually a short-term rental will be a higher asking price per month. Fully furnished, more per month. This is built in 2021, so it's newer construction. It's only 2-year-old construction.
With amazing pool.
Furnished pool, yeah. This is
Penthouse.
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is in the other part of Hollywood.
Okay. All right, let's get rid of that. Let's go back to the pictures of our property on Alta Vista. Let's see what we have. Okay, we can't compare it to that other house, right?
Yeah.
But we do have granite counters, we have wood floors, tile floor. Okay. So. Okay. All right, our goal here is to find something similar. So let's look at this house on North Vista that leased for 16,000 a month. Let's just look at pictures of that one. Nice little Lamborghini in the front. All right, so obviously this is not comparable to our house, right? Obviously, so. Okay, we're not in that, it's a different animal altogether. So let's go back now to our criteria. So I'm gonna press this criteria button. It didn't take me anywhere. I'm just gonna exit this window. I'm back to my criteria screen. Now I'm going to go back to sold. Remember before we only went back 1 year? I'm gonna go back even farther now. I'm gonna go back to January 2021. A long time ago, but I need to find comps. Okay, and hit count again. Now I have a lot of comps. Let's see what comes up. Okay, so I am going to get rid of these huge numbers here because they just don't apply. So I'm sorting by sale price. I have here a property that
Why wouldn't you start by square footage instead of?
I could, but I'm assuming that these numbers, that 14,000 a month, 14, I'm not gonna get that for my 2,200 foot house.
Right.
I think that is also is the older one, huh?
Now, if I look at the square footages here, I don't know, 14,000. Here's a house, here's something that's sold for 14,250 and the house was 1,500 feet. I'm gonna check that. What is that?
Oh, the dump.
So
nice.
how is that possible? This,
How much did it sell for?
it sold for 14,250. That's,
That's why.
it's very the front of the house does not represent what's going on inside the house. Okay, but look at the numbers this neighborhood is getting. Amazing. All right, so. All right, let's look at, so, hello. All right, so 741 Martel.
But one thing is, it's a big difference when you put it 2021, the time that they were in the market, it's just gone so fast compared to the other one.
This is why I recommend a photographer.
Yes.
I don't know what this agent was thinking.
With the.
They are standing on top of a counter.
And also, she didn't even remove, or he didn't even remove the.
The roll of the paper
paper
towel.
Wow.
It's a small space.
So,
But it's rented quickly, I think.
this is a guest house, I think. Is that a guest house? Yeah, it looks like. It, right? With the main house, main house. And now this looks like a guest house. Yeah.
There's the bedroom on the top.
Yeah, with a wall. All right, so that's interesting. So that leased for, it was asking 7,500 and it leased for 6,500.
Yeah, and then it was 2022, how many days was in the market?
So that-
57?
It was listed on June 20th and it closed August 16th. 57 days on market. And then we have this one on Martel, which is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, so it's one less bedroom, 600, 700 less square feet, same size lot, at least for 5,800. Let's take a look at that one. It's a nice house, nice English Tudor, a lot redone. It's a smaller house, so 1,500. So there's a big difference between a 1,500 foot house and
And that is 2 bedrooms, how many?
it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But that's a big difference, like, you know, that extra bedroom and extra square footage is a lot, so it's definitely worth more than 58. Is it worth more than 65? Let's take it again one more time. So this house came with a guest house, I think. So is it a 3-bedroom house plus a guest house? So that's my question. I'm gonna go back to,
And if you wanna send this one, for example, if you wanna send this to me, what do you do?
okay, I can show you that.
Can you
So,
send it?
yeah, so I'm reading the description here. 4-bedroom, 2-bath, Beverly Grove, including guest house. So I don't know if it's 3 bedroom plus a guest house. I don't know.
What's the interior?
I think it's a
I'm going to click,
two-bedroom,
I'm gonna now click on the address here. It's gonna pull up public records.
but somewhere it's put 4 bedrooms.
So let's see what the public records say. Public records are saying that it is a 3 bedroom house. So the house is 3 bedroom plus a guest house. Okay. Right, so. Okay, so I would say that is a 3 bedroom. It's not a 4 bedroom. We have a 4 bedroom, more square footage. So you're asking 69, you're asking 69 and this one for 65. I think we're right on the money. I think we're right in it. Numbers right.
How do you contend with the fact that it, might be more advantageous to have that guest house just as an ADU to
So
rent
now,
separately?
now it's just a question of who's gonna rent it. So is it gonna be a family with 2 kids, 3 kids? Is it gonna be someone that
It's a 1 bedroom. with
maybe
a loft.
using the guest house as an office? So it just depends on the renter, really. It just depends on the renter. But if I need a 4 bedroom, that's worth more money to me than, if I need a 4 bedroom, I can't even look at 3 bedroom. So that I'm only in the 4 bedroom zone.
And when it's a guest house, sometimes it's not really same because if you have 3 kids, you
Yeah.
cannot put one of
But
them in a guest house.
the square footage though is a big one. Going from 1,500 to 2,248, that's a big
It
difference.
depends on your buyer's needs, because
Yes.
if they are, a 3 person family and they just are looking for an office, then you
Right.
should include that.
Hey, I'm gonna send it. So now the question is, how do I send it?
Yeah, can you
Okay,
send it to me?
So I'm
please,
going
this one?
to, yeah, so I'm gonna check the comps that I'm sending. Those 3 comps. Right? And then I'm gonna check the box here, that says add selected comps. And now I'm going to get rid of the other ones that don't apply. So I'm gonna go here to this drop-down box says hide unselected. And I click that and then press go. And that gets rid of everything. Now I'm gonna go back here and go reports. Go. And I'm now in report. Now I'm gonna email this. I'm gonna press email. And send it to,
MUM, sorry. .realtor @gmail.com. Thank you.
and press send.
Yeah, JJ.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, one thing I'm gonna do real quick, sorry, one thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back to my CMA. Okay, so again, if I want to save my search, so I don't have to do this again, there's a box here in the lower right-hand corner that says update CMA. I'm gonna press that. And that just saved my search. So if I exit this and I go back to my homepage and I exit and I wanna go back to the MLS and find what I just did, I can go listings, or I'm gonna search CMA. And then I can go, I'm gonna click on this edited on, which will take me, I'll sort by the last thing I looked at. So the top one is 736 North Alta Vista. I'm gonna click this find comps button right there. And it's going to take me right back to where I left off. So don't forget to do that update CMA in the lower right hand corner.
Oh.
Yeah, question?
okay, like the lease I'm working on that we discussed.
Yeah.
It's 3 of them. Two of them have percentages. Is that like a percentage of
That's
1 month's rent
No, it's gonna be the percentage of the whole term.
for the whole term?
Right, so if it's offering 3%,
Yeah,
then it's 3% of a year, if you're
Okay.
signing a 1-year lease.
2.5%.
2.5% of a whole
One
year.
is 2%.
Yeah, so let's talk real quick about leasing. I know it's not leasing class, but just so you know,
And then the other one just has. a
so
handful.
let's say, it's always a good time to talk about this. brokerages are not in the collection business. Right? We are not in collections. We don't have collection office. We don't get our commissions from the landlord. So you would think that the tenant would make one check to the landlord for everything, and then the landlord would pay us the commissions. That'll never happen. The check's in the mail, right? That'll never happen. So what we do is we ask for commissions to be paid upfront. So instead of the tenant making one check for security and first month's rent, we ask the tenant to make 3 checks, one to the landlord and one to each broker. So let's just say we have a $10,000 a month rent. We have 10,000 a month rent, and then we have $10,000 security deposit. That's $20,000 that they need to come out of pocket with, right? Instead of making a check to the landlord for 20,000, we need to take our commissions out. So let's say commissions are 3% each broker. Now it's 10,000 times a year. So we have 120,000 times 3%, or times 6%, or times 3% each. So this is gonna be 3,600 each. So there's gonna be 3,600, and then 20,000 minus 7,200. Anybody?
13,000 for
7,200, so 12,900, 12,800. No,
it is true.
am I right? The 12,800 to the landlord. That's what's gonna happen. So the tenant is gonna make 3 checks. They're gonna make, instead of the landlord getting the whole 20,000, they're gonna make a check to 3,600 to Keller Williams, 3,600 to the other broker, and 12,800 made payable to the landlord.
And if the contract is for 2 years, because nowadays lots of.
If the contract's on 2 years, we might be getting 72.
Really?
Yeah.
But the landlord will accept that? Means they will pay.
Yeah, I mean, usually the security deposit might be 2 months.
You can get paid for each year the contract is in force for a lease.
We get paid right up front.
Oh,
This is the fastest money you can make as a realtor.
yeah, but what I'm saying, you just get paid for 1 year, right?
It depends what's written in the MLS.
If it's a 3-year lease, is it?
Like,
And
3
then-
years get paid on 3 years. Like,
And then we always put that by next year, landlord can add up
So let's
3% to 5%.
let's just look at this. Let's look at this $14,000 lease here. Let's look at that.
But that is known that the landlord.
Everyone's different. Every listing is different. So let's just see, let's see what we got here. So you're gonna look at your lease that's on the market. So I'm gonna look here, commission 2.5%, okay? Property is unfurnished, 1-year lease. For some reason, they only are looking for a 1-year lease on that property. Okay, let's look at a different property. Let's look at this one for 15,000.
No, but I think, for example, for that Alta Vista, we put 1-year lease, but when the tenant is coming and say, I'm okay, I wanna have a 2 years lease.
That depends.
Then we have to go back to the
I'm
landlord.
gonna look at it real quick. I'm gonna look at it. So let's just look at this one that's asking 15,000. So this was asking 15,000. And it says here, CSO 2.5%, renewal compensation, no. So there's no commission being offered on renewals. But it doesn't say here any, 1-year lease, again, 1-year lease, okay. All right, let's look at this one for 6,900. Okay, 736 Alta Vista. It's offering 2.5% renewal compensation. No. I don't see anything here about limiting the term to 1 year. So I would expect if I'm signing a 2-year lease that I'm gonna get paid on 2 years.
And then we always put it in the contract that by next year, the landlord can add up, I don't know.
I mean, and we can have all different terms on this, but I would expect on this that if I am writing a 2-year lease, I'm gonna get paid on 2 years. And then, let's see, also, let's look at the security deposit. So this was asking 6,900, security deposit was 13,800. Yeah, so this here, they're asking for 2 months security. So in this situation, if I had a 2-year tenant at 6,900, it would be 6,900 plus 13, 6,900 would be first. So it would be 6,900 plus 13,800 would be security deposit. So whatever that total is, would be subtracted 6,900 times, what was that, to say 2.5%?
Yes.
2.5, so 6,900 times 5%. That needs to get deducted, and then the balance, I don't know, whatever, that goes down here, but the balance goes to the landlord. But that's how we get paid, because we're not in the collection business. Right? If agents didn't do it like this, we would never get paid.
I feel that the only hard part, if you deal with these management companies,
Oh,
because now I'm in that situation that
Okay.
they don't accept, they want the check to go to them,
yeah.
they don't.
All right, so I want to show you, here is our KWVH virtual. Right? Here's the helpful links. So we have from KW, we have here our checklists and disclosures from KWVH virtual, right? This is going to pull up our shared Google Drive. There are additional forms that we need to include with the lease. So one of them is called the lease money disposition. And this will explain everything to the landlord. So disclosures. Okay, lease disclosures. Oh, I need to share this. This is not being shared.
Oh, you are?
Is it being shared? Yeah, it's being shared. Okay. Okay, lease money disposition. Here we go. This form we include with our leases. And it says Keller Williams lease money disposition. Every brokerage has a similar form. Okay, it says here's the property address, here's the security deposit, here's the first month's rent, total move-in. Leasee to submit separate checks as follows. Commission for listing office payable to Keller Williams. Commission for selling office payable to Keller Williams. Balance due to the landlord. That's where it goes. The total amount due to the landlord must equal the total move-in cost less office's commissions. All checks must be money order or cashier's check. This is the form that we're going to include. If you represent a tenant, you need to, so if we represent a tenant that's applying for a property, we're going to send this to the listing agent as part of the paperwork. And the tenant, basically here's what I would do. I have a tenant, I'm gonna send an application to the listing agent, right? The listing agent is gonna send back to me the lease. I'm going to have a conversation with the listing agent. Now, the listing agent might have included this form from his broker, an identical form. If not, I'm going to say to the listing agent, how much are commissions? How much is your commission? I know my commission is because it's advertised on the MLS, but just confirming. I can confirm verbally, I can confirm in an email, text message, what the commissions are. And I'm going to tell the other agent, I'm asking the tenant to make the checks. The other agent might not know this. It's possible that they might not know about this scenario. I'm going to explain to them how we collect commissions. And hopefully they know about it, their experience, they do this, hopefully. But always get the commissions because the check is in the mail just doesn't work. We're gonna do all that work and then not get paid. That's it. So for leases, we're gonna include these two addendums. What are the two addendums? So that's the first one, the KW, okay, explain disposition. The other one just says we're not property managers.
Okay.
Landlord and tenant acknowledge and agree that Keller Williams Bills and its agents are in no way acting as property managers.
So on a small lease, it's always the, or it does a credit check on whoever's what.
Okay.
On a big lease, do you do like a pre-qualified?
So I'm gonna show you, so from the MLS,
Okay,
I think next week we're doing leases.
okay,
By the way,
Yeah.
okay, but I'll just show you because we're here. So if I'm representing the tenant, I'm gonna, from the homepage here, under quick links. So this box is called quick links. On page 2 of quick links is rent spree. So make sure that you have a rent spree account.
okay.
So if I click rent spree, it's gonna take me to the rent spree homepage. And I'm gonna log in or sign up. So I'm pressing login, it's moving my criteria, I think. Let's see what happens, asking, no, it's saved on my computer. So basically, we're gonna do this next week. But basically, once I log in here, then it's gonna say screen new renter. And I'm gonna click the screen new renter box. Okay. And it's gonna say, do you wanna send an application only? Or do you wanna send an application with a credit screening? I'm gonna choose both the credit screening and the application, hit next, and then it's gonna say it's $38, which will be billed to the tenant. So all I do is enter their email and press send. The tenant is gonna receive an email from Rent Spree to fill out the application and get a credit report. It'll do a background check. All that, it's all gonna, when he finishes or she finishes, it'll get emailed back to me as a PDF, and then I can send that to the listing. And we'll do that next week. That's.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Much brain stuff.
So. Houses.
You do one for another agent?
Yes.
Okay.
To approach that decision, give us an email.
I would call. Yeah, I would call the listing agent. And I would say, hi, I'm in your office and I see that you don't have an open house scheduled for Sunday. And I hold it open Sunday.
Oh, okay, so you would. You would essentially.
Yeah, like
Right, that is
like
not-
right now, I'm looking on the MLS of our office. And so I'll do, so I'm gonna search, you can watch or, I'm just doing it, so I'm gonna search listing single family. And then search from form field. So I'm gonna search offices. So 8 offices, it's gonna take me down to the office search area. And then in offices, I'm gonna. All the requests, yeah. Beverly Hills. And then I'm gonna check this one, this X740541. And then that's gonna tell me,
Is there any umbrella that you can do for like all of the West LA offices?
oh, I'm only searching our office, but you can add to it. But I have to go back up to basic criteria now because I need to check actions. Okay. So this is showing we have 54 active single family. So I'm gonna zoom into the area that I want to do.
She's the one you need to contact. She's gonna set up.
And
She's gonna send you the contract, and then on the contract you will sign up for the payment.
so here's a $4 million property.
But she's the one that's gonna guide you.
I don't know where this is. So here's Carmen, so it's in the mountains here.
Cause she sent me.
So I'm gonna click it, Franklin Canyon.
Welcome to Keller. She's gonna send you like a
MLS,
welcome
let's
to
see.
the- everything that is next.
So there's no open house listed here.
It's gonna tell you everything.
I'm going to
It's a lot of
call Tatiana.
That's
And
nice.
say, hi Tatiana, it's JJ Wallack.
But she's not there, I think she's usually here. She's at.
There she says.
And anything to switch this info, I have dispersed.
I mean, Tatiana's pretty specific, she's very careful about her marketing perception in the, ever, she's very detailed. I would be surprised if she went to it, but maybe she would, maybe she would, I don't know, you don't know if you don't ask, right? So, I know that she's,
Same.
very concerned about the appearance and the visuals on her property, especially on the price. Yeah, so,
On the welcome.
Thank you, JJ.
no problem. But definitely yes.
Yes.
This is Netflix. He's so good. Banger, I'm so happy you can praise this with your presence. How'd you get here? An atlas? First of all, it's a map. It's a piece of paper, something tangible you can hold. And second of all, I have my hearing in it. All needs is out. Speaking of tangible, last time you changed out your headshot. Did you fax it over? No, you can't text it to me. This is a landline. Oh, Century 21. I spotted you from a mile away with that hideous mustard jacket. It's not even in fashion. KW. But hey, thank you for training our agents, Abby. We appreciate it. So without a brick and mortar, where are you keeping all these agents?
So what's real? Is it a shoe fetish or a foot fetish?
It's gotta be a foot fetish, I imagine, right? In the shoes that life. But my ref here is Willow. Interesting. Well, how many houses have you sold this year? None. Yeah, me neither. But my downline, it's huge. Somebody say referrals. Sweet. Say that name.
Real. You realize this is a broker something?
Funny, yeah, that's what he said that to me about, that's fun. Thank you, JJ. Oh, yeah, see, thank you for sharing. Hey, how are you? It's up to you if you can handle the,
Well, I
how many people are in?
I think.
Okay. So we don't, you heard what I was saying, like having 500 and hitting 25 a day.
Yeah,
Is
But
it more
even
than,
if I have
is it more than 500?
I can.
I sent you the names?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's fine.
Okay, because if
I
I
don't-
sent you the names, it's only 500.
Yeah, no, then I.
Because I
Yeah,
can only get 500.
But that's fine. I just have all these, okay, I have. This is what I have.
Bye, everybody online. Thank you for coming.
So it's way more than.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole, that's 1,000.
But whatever, I guess you can get, or if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'll help you. I'll give you a smaller.
A smaller, okay, yeah, do you have the email or should I send it?
Well, I need to know where you want to focus.
Okay, so more focused, okay, so I should do half of it,
Just tell me the street that you, tell me the center.
okay? Oh, the
If you
center,
give me the center, I'll give you 500 around.
oh, perfect, okay, I'll do that for everyone.
And you can give me an address
Okay.
or cross
Oh, I
street.
can do it right now.
Yeah.
And then I want to ask you for the open house, where you find the, because I wanted to go on an open house Sunday, but I couldn't find it.
Oh. So you can use your KW app
Oh, okay,
and you can filter it by open houses.
this one.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then and that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's.
But also in the MLS.
On the own, okay,
Yeah, pull
okay.
up MLS.
Oh, I didn't know that. Because I wanted to do it, I was like, okay. It was on Facebook. trying
Yeah,
to
yeah,
find
pull
something.
up the MLS. Okay, so we go search, listing, single family.
And then that's why they showed the open house.
Here's the, you can do here, enable open house.
Oh, wow, okay.
And then when you check that box, it'll ask you specific day or all days. So you can go from and to the same day.
Okay,
So here you
perfect,
can
so I
choose
can do
to
just
Sunday.
Sunday, because Sunday is where,
Sunday and then do end date Sunday.
oh,
And then it'll only
perfect.
do for Sunday.
Oh, that's really, okay,
Do review, over all, that's it.
okay, got it. Very easy. Awesome, I'm gonna send you an address right now.
Okay, good.